Brazil's president is cracking down on social media sites, banning them from taking down certain posts. Meanwhile, multiple people are dead following a fire at a coronavirus hospital in North Macedonia. Ian Lee's following these stories as well as other stories for us. Ian, that sounds just awful.
Yeah, good morning, Anne-Marie. The fire only lasted 45 minutes, but in that time it was able to quickly spread throughout the temporary hospital. North Macedonia's health minister says at least 14 people are dead and 12 others injured. It was a chaotic scene as firefighters battled the flames. The situation was made worse by explosions likely from oxygen canisters. The hospital was set up to treat patients with COVID-19. Officials say that no healthcare workers were injured during what they're describing as a terrible accident. An investigation is now underway to determine the cause of that fire. We're moving on to the U.S. Open, where British teenager Emma Raducanu has shocked fans. The 18-year-old's dominance throughout the tournament is almost defying belief as she's easily cruised through to the final. She's now become the first British woman in a major singles final in 44 years. After the match, she said she's been focusing on each day and that she can't believe she's made it. She will now face another teenager, Canada's Leila Fernandez, in Saturday's final. Next, we are in Brazil, where the president is at war with social media companies. Jair Bolsonaro temporarily banned them from removing certain content, which includes his claims that the only way he'll lose next year's election is if it is rigged. The new rules take effect immediately. This all comes at a critical time. Bolsonaro has used social media to push his political movement, but recent polls show that if the election was held today, he'd lose. So the president is using social media to try to undermine the vote's legitimacy, but Brazil's electoral court insists there are no problems with the voting system. Finally, we are in North Korea with an unusual military parade. Personnel in orange hazmat suits with medical-grade masks marched for the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. Noticeably missing, though, were the North's intercontinental ballistic missiles. Last year, Kim bragged about the country's nuclear capabilities and showcased previously unseen long-range missiles. The focus this year seems to be on the battle against COVID-19. North Korea hasn't confirmed any cases, but it closed its borders and imposed strict measures to prevent the virus's spread. Anne-Marie, it's always difficult to read North Korea's tea leaves. One expert believes the emphasis is more on domestic issues like COVID and the economy, but another noticeable change was Kim himself, who appeared thinner, healthier, and more energetic than previous years.
Yeah, he certainly did. I know a South Korea spy agency had said that, it speculated or said that he weighed about 300 pounds. I think this was back in November. And there were some thoughts that maybe he had contracted COVID because he looked a little slimmer in the summer. But maybe instead of being less healthy, he's actually getting healthier. You know, it's anyone's guess when it comes to North Korea. Ian, thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Ian. All right, so the fourth day of pretrial hearings for the 5 alleged 9/11 conspirators set to get underway today. Yesterday's session was a closed classified session where defense attorneys and military prosecutors had a chance to tell the judge what they believe are the most sensitive issues that need to be addressed. Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge is covering this story for us. She joins us now from Guantanamo Bay. Good morning, and what can we expect from today's court hearing?
Well, Anne-Marie, about 90 minutes from now, we'll go into the final session of the week. The first few hours were going to be an open session where we'll have reporters as well as some of the 9/11 family members. And then we expect to move into another closed classified session where they're going to pick up this discussion about the evidence and what ultimately may be admissible in the case when it goes to trial. We are more than a decade into the military legal process here at Guantanamo Bay, and there is still no date on the calendar to prosecute these men. They face war crimes, in this case, conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism, hijacking, as well as the intentional murder of civilians, in this case, nearly 3,000 Americans on 9/11. And clearly, today's session, coming one day before the anniversary, will have sort of a lot of resonance, I think, for folks who are inside that courtroom, Anne-Marie.
Boy, Catherine, you just read my mind, and I couldn't determine whether the timing was sort of poetic or tragic that it has taken this long. But, you've told us that there are 9/11 families there. I'm wondering if you have had a chance to speak to them. I know you're separated within the courtroom, but have you heard anything about, if they have any plans in terms of marking 20 years since the attack tomorrow, or if you heard from them at all?
I spoke with a half dozen 9/11 family members before I got to Guantanamo Bay, and I had met them on previous trips, and it's really no small thing for these families to come from the U.S. and go through all the logistics and the travel to get here to the base. And they told me that they felt really let down by every administration since 9/11. That there had not been a trial in this case. They told me it had become a case of justice delayed, justice denied. And I know two 9/11 family members that I met here at Guantanamo Bay, and one of them predicted that he would die before ever seeing the end of this military process. And I'm sad to say that is in fact what happened. So there's real collateral damage, if you will, still from the 9/11 attacks, this failure to prosecute the 5 men who we believe are responsible, Anne-Marie.
I know, and I know you've talked about just how complicated this trial is, but the military must be sensitive to the needs of the victims, the survivors, their families. What is the military saying about this incredible delay?
Well, the Office of Military Commissions, which is what oversees these trials here at Guantanamo Bay, has really gone above and beyond to bring family members here who want to sit inside that courtroom and lay their eyes on the defendants. I've been inside, I've seen it many times. What they tell reporters is that these are incredibly, and it's an understatement, complex cases. They are committed to a fair and just outcome in this case, however long it takes. But all of that said, you have on the one side these military trials, and then this really sort of a competing interest, which is the desire of at least 2 administrations to completely shut down the operation. They don't want to have the detention camps here. This is where the 5 9/11 suspects are held. So you have this sort of conflict on top of what is already a very complex legal process, Anne-Marie.
In regards to tomorrow, do you know if there are any events at all planned at the base to mark 20 years since the attack?
There are going to be a handful of events here at Guantanamo Bay. There's going to be a 9/11 run on the base in the morning, and there are going to be some special ceremonies, including a worship service to mark 9/11. What you hear often from people at the base is they feel like the whole public perception of what happens at Guantanamo Bay is just the detainees, the detention camps, and the trials. But the base has been here since 1898. And it's one of the most important naval stations facing onto the Atlantic, and a major post for the collection of intelligence. So they want people to remember that they've got another mission here, while at the same time they're going to honor and recognize the families and the victims of 9/11, Anne-Marie.
Yes, understandable. Catherine, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So in the weeks and months leading up to the 9/11 attacks, the CIA sounded an alarm that something was coming. In a new documentary produced by our new See It Now studios, we'll go inside the agency's hunt for al-Qaeda and its then leader, Osama bin Laden. It's called Race Against Time, the CIA and 9/11. It streams tomorrow morning at 2 Eastern and again tomorrow night at 8 Eastern right here on CBSN.